Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for coming along to the information session on the University Exchange Programme for next academic year for 2022-23. My name is Conleth and I'm part of the Global Opportunities team. And for this session, we'll go through, we'll talk about how these exchanges have been affected by COVID over the last few years. We'll look at the two host universities. Normally there's 3 universities, 2 in Canada and 1 in Australia, but unfortunately for academic year 22-23, we've only got one in Australia. Sorry, 1 in Canada. So there's 1 in Canada and 1 in Australia. And then we'll talk about the application process and how to apply if you're interested, and then we'll have a bit at the end for questions as well. So just as a background, first of all, to myself and the Global Opportunities team. So we're based in the Student Guidance Centre across from the main Queen's building. And our aim is to promote and support students with international study and work programmes. So there's a whole range of study, work and volunteering opportunities that we're trying to promote to students, and hopefully you'll avail of those. So we're a small team of 6. Our main website is just the website you see on the screen, go.qub.ac.uk/go-global. And we do run some virtual drop-in sessions on a Tuesday and a Thursday from 12 to 1. So they're 15-minute sessions that you can book onto through My Future and chat to myself or one of my colleagues about a range of different opportunities. If you've got one in mind or you're just looking to see what you can do, we don't mind. So, why should you undertake this University Exchange Programme or any programme for that matter? Well, I suppose first of all, it builds up your cultural awareness. You don't need to be going to a country that speaks a different language. Any country will have their own culture, and so it builds up that cultural awareness, allows you to experience a new city, a new accommodation, new style of teaching, allows you to see or make new friends. So it's building up that awareness when you're out there. Now, we're based within the Careers, Employability and Skills department, and so we would talk to a lot of employers, and what they're increasingly saying to us is that they want to see students who will stand out in the job market, and that's just setting themselves apart. And what can students do to do this? Well, undertaking this sort of exchange is one way of setting yourself apart and showing to employers that you didn't just come to Belfast for your degree, you also spent time in Canada or Australia as well. And now increasingly we hear from some of the students who've undertaken these type of programmes, and you'll hear from another student later on in the session, and they say that it's helped them build up life skills like confidence and communication skills, but also importantly resilience as well. And in today's society, resilience is very, very important. So it helps, this type of experience helps to build up those life skills too. It shows a degree of flexibility, again going back to employers who may have hubs all over the world, to be able to say that you spent time in Newcastle in Australia or Kingston in Canada, as well as your time in Belfast, does show a degree of flexibility. And also this exchange can go towards the Degree Plus award. And for anybody who's unfamiliar with Degree Plus, it's Queen's way of accrediting any extracurricular activities that you do. And just so that you know, if you do want to ask any questions during this session, you can do so in the chat, but beware that the chat is viewable by all participants, so we would advise not putting any personal details in the chat. So how have these exchanges been affected by COVID? So we're going to take a step back to last year to 2020-21. So because of COVID, we actually had to cancel the exchanges to Canada and Australia, and no students were able to for safety reasons. And for this academic year, we have been able to send students, and we did implement a risk assessment process, and that doesn't just go for this programme, but for all international programmes or students travelling on work or study related programmes have to go through a risk assessment. And so the exchanges with the Canadian universities did go ahead. However, the exchanges with the Australian universities weren't allowed to proceed because of the borders with Australia not being open in time for the students to go. So what does this mean for yourselves, hopefully going out in 22-23? The risk assessment process will continue. and we will be monitoring the situation and travel situation right throughout this academic year and over the summer and into next academic year. And so we're hopeful that exchanges to Canada and Australia can proceed. So just a few bit of housekeeping about the programme. The year or the semester that you spend abroad would replace the year or semester that you would have been at Queen's. So the marks that you achieve whilst you're out will be converted back and can go towards your degree classification. So the programme itself is open to any undergraduate student as long as you're full-time, or if you're part-time, you need to be studying full-time when you're out on your placement. You can go in your second or third or final year, if that is your final year, but in all cases you need to have permission from your school. Now there are some restrictions on certain subject areas, and I've given a few examples there, the likes of psychology and the performing arts and business. There sometimes are restrictions there, so we would always advise going back to your school and asking whether or not this programme, if you're allowed to do it, or whether there are restrictions in place. And that could be that you have to be at Queen's for certain subjects, or there might be accreditations that you need to adhere to for your course. But it's always best to check with your school. And usually any medicine, nursing, biomedical science, social work, pharmacy or law students cannot generally apply. Again, that's because of the course content. We'd always advise going back to your school to check that before going through the application process. So in terms of our partners, like I said at the outset, we normally have 3. But with the University of Alberta, unfortunately, we're not able to send students in 22, 23, and that's due to an imbalance with the exchange. There's actually more students have gone out to Alberta than have came in, so we're trying to correct that balance. So unfortunately, for next academic year, there'll be no students going out to the University of Alberta. But there are a lot of places for the Queen's University Kingston in Canada, and the University of Newcastle in New South Wales. So there's 5 full-time places in Canada, which could equate to 5 students going for a full year or 10 students going for 1 semester. And again, likewise, for Newcastle, it could be 2 students going for the full year or 4 students going for a semester each. Again, depending on how it fits with the exchange. So, in terms of Queen's University Kingston, first of all, the city itself is a city probably about the similar size to Belfast, and rich in heritage, culture and history, and is set on the shores of Lake Ontario. It's named as one of the top 5 university towns in the world by the BBC, and it's just a few hours travel from the major cities of Toronto, Montreal and Ottawa. In terms of the university itself, there's around about 25,000 students at the university. So, you know, it's quite similar to Queen's as well. The university itself is quite old. It was established in 1841, and that's 4 years before Queen's received its charter as a university. And I'm just going to show a video now about the university. Okay, so I hope that gave a bit of a flavour for Queen's University Kingston. So just a few more bits and pieces. As I mentioned, it's set on the shores of Lake Ontario, and it's got about 100-acre campus, which is apparently among Canada's most beautiful campuses. It's home to approximately 1,300 international students. So you know, if you choose to go there, you won't be on your own, and the facilities that they have should be set up for international students coming in, and that's students from about 123 different countries. The exchange itself operates in arts and sciences only. However, if you're outside of that, you can always drop us an email, and we can advise if you'll be able to undertake the exchange. So we're lucky enough to have a past participant, Brendan, who was out in Queen's University Kingston in, am I right, 1920, I think it was, Brendan, is that right? During academic year 1920. Did that video bring back any emotions, Brendan, or did you see any familiar faces?
Yeah, there was lots of like familiar stuff just with the campus and accommodation. It's really like amazing town, Kingston. So yeah, it was nice to see that.
Brilliant. So I suppose if you go back to the start, Brendan, why did you apply for the program? What made you think about undertaking the exchange?
Yeah, well, I'm from Belfast, so I came to Queen's and did first year uni here, and was just kind of wanted the experiences some of my friends were getting who had gone away even to like England and places. Wanted something a bit different, so I just looked up the global opportunities at Queen's. There was a couple of different programs, and this one kind of stood out to me. And then yeah, I just started to apply.
Yeah, and in terms of the application process, and I know it's a while ago now since you've done it, but how did you find the application? Because there's an application and an interview. How did you find it?
Yeah, it's the application is not too bad. It's just like a series of forms, kind of why you want to do it, different things about you, quite easy to fill out. And then if you get an interview, you go and just kind of chat through your application almost with a couple of different people. And yeah, it's not too bad.
Cool. So obviously you got through that, and then you got onto your placement in Kingston. And when you arrived in Kingston, what were your first thoughts? You just arrived in the airplane. What was your first thoughts about the campus and the university?
Yeah, so I went out about a week before any classes or anything started. There's a program called, I think it's called NEWTs, and it's for like exchange students coming over, because Queen's in Kingston has a lot of international students, so they run these programs to kind of like integrate you into the community in the first few weeks. So I went out early for one of those, and I was kind of lucky enough where I got under the halls. It's not a lot of people kind of get into the halls. There's not a lot of places, but I got onto that, and kind of moved in, and it was all international students in the halls, so everyone was kind of in the same boat. And yeah. Yeah,
well, actually, you answered my first question, or my next question, sorry. It was about accommodation. We find with these sort of programs, because students are organising their own accommodation, it can be quite difficult to get accommodation, and it can be one of those stress points before going out. How did you find the search and get your accommodation sorted?
Yeah, it was probably the most stressful part of the whole thing, to be honest, and was kind of getting that sorted, just because I didn't know anyone really who had done the program before, so I didn't really know who to ask about it. And people were saying things about, different like online like groups and stuff where people look for housing, and you kind of just have to have been there to know. So you can apply to the halls, that's one way. There's also co-op housing, which is kind of somewhere in between, where it's all students who are at the university, usually exchange students, but there's kind of less rules in the halls. Like it's a bit more independent, so that's like a good option. I'd probably encourage people to do. And then as well as that, I know a lot of people who find the housing through it's kind of random, but they use like Facebook groups in Kingston, and people literally just post like houses. It might be like, say, like 4 girls looking for like a female roommate, and they'll post that, and then like one girl I know who went out, she just met them on like FaceTime and stuff, and was happy enough, and then lived with them and had a really great experience that way. So
Yeah, no, that, and you know what, that you're right, that it can be a stressful enough experience trying to find accommodation. What we would always advise is trying to do it as early as possible. Once you kind of know that you've been accepted onto these type of programs, doing your search, and you're totally right. Sometimes the host university will have information about accommodation or halls of residence, but a lot of times we find students telling us that it's through Facebook groups or societies and stuff like that they find the details about accommodation. So when you were there, how did you find the academic level? You know, obviously you're getting a new style of teaching and doing different subjects than you would have been doing here at Queen's. How did you find the academic side?
Yeah, it was hard at the start. Just they have quite a lot of contact hours in comparison to here, but it's so good. Like I did English and film studies, so here it was very like theory based, all the films, so it was kind of learning about the reasons things are done rather than actually doing any sort of practical stuff. Whereas when I was out, it was all practical. They have amazing campus and like amazing facilities, like from everything to we would do like video shoots out on the lake and like on locations to different little like islands around the city and stuff. So it's really, really good uni.
Yeah, and I suppose for students who are thinking of applying, they'll obviously have to detail modules on their application forms, but you know, it's being able to study modules that you can at Queen's, and that's a good incentive of doing these sort of programs. That, you know, if there's a module that interests you at either Kingston or Newcastle, it's about putting that down in a form. All modules have to get signed off, obviously, by your school before you go. In terms of integrating yourself into life there, did you get involved with any clubs or societies, or did you anything like that to help with, that transition into life in Kingston?
Yeah, there was lots of things. So that was kind of, I never did that when I was here at Queen's, but when I went away, I kind of thought I would make the effort, and just there was a big fair day that had loads of different clubs, kind of the same way they would here. And we went and just kind of signed up for everything. Like there was like ski clubs and like an outdoors club where you kind of just went for like different like hiking trips and stuff around. Because like obviously there's amazing like natural sites around Canada, so you go to those. They also Queen's in Kingston, they run.
Oh, I think we've just lost Brandon there just for a minute. We'll give him another.
Toronto or Ottawa and places. So
I think we're losing you a wee bit there, Brandon. I'll give you a couple of seconds. Maybe it's just the signal on your phone.
Oh, did it go there?
Yeah, no, you're all right. I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah, you mentioned just about your getting integrated in the clubs and stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, just that I kind of signed up for whatever there was. There was like different outdoors clubs and ski clubs and yeah, loads of different stuff. Like I like American football, so there's American football clubs, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? As we always say, it's a great way to kind of like you don't get in and meet new people, make new friends, and get used to just the life over in Kingston. During your time there, away from the academic side, was there any really memorable moments or anything that you just think, oh, that was amazing, I'll never have that experience again?
Yeah, there was a few. One that kind of stands out would be like homecoming. So like they have this thing in Kingston every October, and it's basically all the students who go to the university and everyone, all the alumni, so all the past pupils come back to the town, because Kingston's like a uni town, so everyone's pretty much a student or works at the university or is related to it, and it's just street parties. So it's just like everyone gets up at like 8 a.m. and like just goes out into the street and it's like partying, and there's like thousands and thousands of people, and it's just so much fun. And the trips as well, like I made like good friends with the people in my halls, and we kind of went to like New York or Toronto or Montreal, different places, and like that kind of continues as well. We're all still friends now, and like actually, like earlier today, we just booked to go to Portugal in a couple of weeks. Like, so, yeah.
Yeah, it gives you a couch to crash on if you're going back to Canada as well. When during that experience, did a lot of students, as I said earlier in the presentation, build up skills from doing that? Either they tell us that their confidence has improved so much, or their resilience. Have you found the experience has helped you in that regard, in terms of your own personal attributes?
Yeah, definitely. Just like confidence and independence would be big ones. Where like I was 19 when I went, and I just kind of got on the plane, went by myself, didn't really know anyone going, and had to, even when you arrive, you fly into Toronto and then have to kind of get trains down to Kingston, and just that whole experience, like moving in, like setting up a room, and just everything really like fostered like this sort of new independence, and it also, like, since any interviews or anything that I've done for jobs since, like, they always bring up your international experience and ask you about it. Like, it's always one of the main things they bring up, just because it's something different that isn't on everyone's CV, so it really helps with that as well.
Yeah, again, shows that degree of flexibility as well. You're you mentioned the resilience and the communication and stuff like that. I suppose what probably concerns some students going out on this type of program is the amount it's going to cost. Did you find, in terms of the cost of living, did it differ much from Belfast? And I'm not too sure if you were living at home when you were in Belfast, or what your situation was, but how did you find the cost of living out there?
Yeah, no, I lived out like all through uni, so I was in like Stramillis in first and third year, but yeah, it's more expensive than Belfast. It's pretty much the same as if you were away, like in most other cities. So if you were living in somewhere in England, it maybe, I know a lot of my friends would be paying like 500, 600 pound maybe. It's something close to that over there. Not too different, but it is expensive. But there are things available. Like, I didn't have a lot of money going, but like I was able to like make do with loans, and there's a couple different grants available through Queen's, which I got 2 or 3 of those, and they really helped. And then as well, just like, you have a good amount of time before you actually go to try and save a bit of money as well. So
yeah, and I've got a slide about some of the money things that I talk about later on. What advice then would you give to the students who may be here today and think about doing this program?
Mm-hmm. It would just be to go for it, pretty much, because like now, after I finished my undergrad in August, and a lot of my friends would be the same, and so many of them mentioned to me that like their main regret in uni is that they didn't do a year away somewhere, because it can seem quite scary when you're 19, the thought of like moving away and leaving your friends and sort of thinking that you're going to be missing out on loads at home. But like, it will all be there waiting for you, and you're just adding to yourself getting to do this experience. So I really would just encourage people to go for it.
Brilliant. And if you had to do it all over again, Brendan, would you apply and would you go on it?
Yeah, definitely. I would do the double semester instead of one.
Right. Yes. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. So do you know what? That's been brilliant, Brendan. Thank you very much for sharing your experience. And it's great that you had a wonderful experience out there. Look, and thanks again for taking time away from your work, because I know you're working at the minute. It's your lunch break. So look, I let you go on. Really appreciate the time you've taken.
Nice.
And look, if I don't get talking to you again, best of luck with everything.
Perfect. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Brendan. So that was great to hear from Brendan. Now we're just going to talk about the other exchange partner that we have during 22-23, and that's the University of Newcastle in New South Wales in Australia. It's situated on the eastern coast of Australia, around about 2 hours drive from north of Sydney. In terms of population, it's a lot bigger than Kingston. There's about 500,000 people who live in Newcastle. And the city comes with the usual facilities, restaurants, cafes, art galleries, nightclubs, everything you'd expect from a major city. It's a few kilometres south sorry, a few kilometres south of Newcastle is Australia's largest seaboard lake, and that's Lake Macquarie. So if anybody's interested in the likes of sailing or boating, this is a good incentive to go to Australia. The university itself it's a lot younger than Queen's. It was established in 1965, and there's about 30,000 students across a wide range of disciplines, and 6,000 of those are coming from overseas. So again, I've got a video just to give you a bit of a flavour to the university.
Taking all the sunshine, bottle up the rain. Go where the wind blows, let it show the way. Open all the windows, let in all the light. You can pull the stars down, paint the perfect sky. So go and write your song. The world will sing along. As well begin. Memories you're making, you frame inside your heart. The middle of a nowhere is somewhere you can start. So go and write your song. The world will sing along. Oh, life's what you make it.
So that kind of gives another bit of information about the University of Newcastle. Just a few more bits and pieces. So it's ranked in the top 250 universities globally by the Times Higher Education World University Rankings, and in the top 200 most international universities. There's two campuses, the main Callahan campus and the Newcastle City campus. So the main Callahan campus is one of the best in Australia, a mix of architecturally designed buildings on about 140 hectares of grassland. And it's located about 12 kilometres northwest of Newcastle city centre. And the Newcastle City campus is based within the city in the central business district, and right in the middle of the city's art scene, actually. So you can see from that video, there's a thriving harbour there. There's the lovely coastline, the beaches, and quite a diverse art scene as well. In terms of semesters, it's a little bit different for those guys to ourselves. Our semester one is their semester two. So there's a wee bit of a difference there, obviously. If you're going out for the fall for semester, our semester one, you'd be going out in July to November, and that would be their semester two. And then if you're going for the full year, you'd be going in then into their semester one. In terms of that can affect though those hoping to graduate or going out in their final year and hoping to graduate. As you can see there, their semester 1, which is our semester 2, runs from February to June 2023, which means if you were going out in your final year and you were hoping then to graduate in the summer of 2023, we may not have the marks back in time for your graduation, in time for summer graduation. So it may be the case that if you are in your final year going out to Newcastle for the full year or just semester 2, then you may have to graduate in the winter of 2023, just because we won't get the marks back in time for summer graduation. So, as I mentioned there, there's just the semester dates. Queen's University Kingston is quite similar to ourselves, September to December, and then again semester 2 is January to late April. And like I said, University of Newcastle, you go out and if you go for the full year, you go out to their semester 2 first, and then their semester 1, and you would finish up in June 2023. But obviously, students you can go for either a semester or a full academic year to either institution. So another big question that everybody has is about money. For this exchange, you may be eligible for a Turing grant. Now, more information will be confirmed during the summer, in terms of that grant. And that will be, if that grant is available, it will be a certain amount of money per month that you receive in total for the duration of your stay. So that would be about 80% you would then receive at the start of your placement, and the other 20% towards the end of your placement. And that will be seen as a kind of a helping hand when you're out there. But like I say, to any successful students at interview, we'll be telling them more details about the Turing grant later on in the year. In terms of tuition fees, any NI, GB or EU students spending the full year in Kingston or Newcastle, that should be in there, may be eligible for a tuition fee waiver for the 22-23 year. That has to be confirmed. So just to go over that, if you go out for the full year to either institution, you may be eligible for a tuition fee waiver. So you wouldn't pay any tuition fees to Queen's for that entire year. If you're going out for one semester to either institution, you would just pay the normal tuition fees that you would if you were here at Queen's. And international students spending either the full year or one semester are required to pay the normal tuition fees to Queen's. There's no fee waiver there. You're still eligible to claim your student loans and any maintenance grants that you would if you were here at Queen's. And therefore, you're also required to organise and cover the cost of the likes of accommodation and visas and health insurance. We do have some cost of living details on the institutions on the notes on My Future. But also you can see more information on globalgraduates.com if you need some information about kind of the money matters side of things. Excuse me, I'm just going to take a drink. So as I mentioned at the outset, there is a risk assessment now required for all students undertaking an international opportunity, whether that's going on work or study placement. You must not travel before you've received approval from the university to travel. And we would advise that you do not make any financial commitments before you receive this approval. A lot of students would kind of start looking at accommodation at an early stage. That's fine to do your research, but we would always advise don't be making any financial commitments, whether that's accommodation or travel, before you receive the approval from the university to travel. That risk assessment covers areas like the travel guidance in the host in the likes of Canada, Australia, any visa requirements. We ask about, is there an academic contingency plan in place? So what happens if because of COVID, it's not allowed to go ahead? Will you revert back to your normal teaching? And then asking you questions about your nearest relevant embassy or consulate. All the risk assessment process is put in place for your safety. So we want to make sure that you're aware of all these things when we do this do that assessment. So approval will be sought from your school when you complete the risk assessment. And by the way, we will be giving more details to any successful students about the risk assessment. So anybody undertaking the application, if you're successful there, you'll go towards an interview. And if you're successful at interview, then we will be giving you details about the risk assessment. So you don't have to do that now. like I said, we'll be seeking approval from your school that they allow you to go, and then a confirmation email will be sent out to you once your school has approved. And like I said, we'll be contacting any successful candidates at interview with further information on the risk assessment. So in terms of the application process, what we would advise is going on to My Future and reading the guidance notes on the universities. Check the university websites and look at the modules that you can study at the host universities. And I'll be talking a little bit more about the modules now and in a couple of more slides. The applications are open on My Future currently, and you can go on there and you can take a look at the application. Chat to somebody in your school, like your advisor of studies. We would always kind of advise you're going to your advisor of studies in the first instance, but also you can talk to your international advisor or your director of education. And what we want you to be discussing with them is does this exchange, is it appropriate for you to do that during your course, and would they support your application? We also would like you to look at the modules that you would like to study in Kingston or in Newcastle and detail those on your application form. And this is just a provisional list of modules, and we'd also like you to discuss these with your your advisor of studies, your international advisor, or your director of education prior to you making your application. If you're successful at interview, we'll be asking you to formalise those modules, but for the purposes of the application, it's more of a provisional list. We also on the application want you to nominate a referee from a member of academic staff within your school who can comment on your academic ability. It's always best to get their approval before you put their name down on your form. So the deadline for applications is 2 p.m. on the 4th of February. Anything received after that may not be considered. And then interviews are scheduled for the 18th of February. At the minute, we have to advise on whether or not the interviews will be virtual or physical. More likely, it'll be virtual, but to all successful candidates at application, once we invite you for interview, we will be letting you know the details. And then if you're successful in the interview, we will then nominate you to the host university of your choice. So in terms of the application form, some of you may have already looked at the application form, some of you may just go on to do it now. This first part is looking at your personal details, and that's straightforward enough. The second part is looking at your academic career and qualifications. So we want to see students of an adequate academic level. So we want to make sure that you're able to keep up with the rigors of studying in a different environment. And if we're seeing from your marks that you're maybe struggling during your academic time at Queen's, it might be difficult for you then to adjust to a university in Canada or Australia. So we want to make sure you're of an adequate academic level. The third section is previous work or study experience abroad. We want you to include anything that may be relevant. So maybe you've volunteered abroad, maybe you've worked in a summer camp. If you don't have anything, don't worry, but anything that's relevant, we would like you to put in there. Fourth section is evidence of extracurriculars activities. This is kind of a way for us to determine how you will engage in university life in a different country. So if you currently participate in any clubs or societies that may, and you want to join any club or societies in your host institution, we want to know about it. These can be clubs and societies in Queen's or outside of Queen's. We just want to make sure that you're going to be able to integrate into life in your host university. And then the last part is your personal statement. We want to see what you hope to get out of it and how does it fit with your studies and your career plan. And we want to see that you've researched the university and what it offers in terms of modules and strengths. And not just the university, we want to see that you've researched the city that you're going to and the country that you're going to as well. So we would ask that you do your research before completing the personal statement. So in terms of the application, one application per student, and we would ask you to rank in order your preferred university that you would like to go to. If you've only one, that's fine. But yeah, just rank in order which one you want to go to. So we wanted you to draw up a provisional list of courses that you would undertake at that university, and the list of courses can be found on My Future, on the application form on My Future. There's a link there to look at the modules that you can potentially study at your host university. Bear in mind that the module list may be from last academic year, but that's fine because most modules will still run for 22-23. And we would ask that you draw up those modules in line with your consultation with your advisor of studies, the international advisor in your school, or the director of education in your school, somebody in your school who's able to help with, advising whether or not the selection that you've made is appropriate. And then we'd like you to nominate a reference from a member of academic staff who can comment on your academic performance. We'd always ask that you ask them first before putting their name down on your form. So in terms of the modules, the links are for the modules are on the guidance notes on My Future. For the University of Newcastle, you would just go on to the course handbook, which is at www.newcastle.edu.au/course. Again, that link is on the guidance notes. And the exchange operates in most subject areas. You will be selecting courses totaling 60 units for the academic year or 30 units per semester. And most courses are worth 10 units. So if you're going for one semester, you'd be just selecting 3 modules worth 10 units, and then it's 60 units for the academic year. So you'll be able to filter the course handbook by your subject or the module that you're interested in. You can see here on the screen, I just kind of picked out physical chemistry, or chemistry, sorry. And then you'll be able to select each of the modules and see more information, including the content and the learning outcomes. What we would be suggesting is that this is the sort of information you're bringing when you're talking to your advisor of studies. You're looking at the modules that you can study, and you're looking at the description of the modules. You're looking at the level that it's at. You can see this is a level 2 module, and the units, obviously, and this is worth 10 units. This will be one of your 3 modules if you're studying for one semester. So it's this information that we'll be asking that you would bring and discuss with your advisor of studies or somebody in your school who can help with advising what modules you put down on your form. So in terms of then the University of Kingston, you will go to the academic calendar page of the university's homepage. And again, as I mentioned, it's for the 21-22 year, but then that will be very few changes for the 22-23 academic year. On that page, you go on to the courses of instruction, and that'll bring up kind of a list of all you'll be able to select all the courses and modules, including the content as well. You will be selecting modules that have got a number of 200 or 300 in the course title, as in second year or third year. And you should be selecting courses totaling 24 credit points. You can see the one I've selected here is 6. So full year courses are normally worth 6 points. Or 6 units, and single term courses are normally worth 3 units. So if you're thinking about going out for just one semester, you'll be taking 4 courses at 3 credit points each, with totaling 12 per term, and then likewise it's 24 if you're going out for the full year. Again, as with Newcastle, we would advise taking a note of the module and the content of the module, and then discussing this with your advisor of studies. If you're selecting, or if you're pronouncing we only want you to outline the modules for your preferred university on your application forms. There's no need to be doing it if you're putting down, say Newcastle is your first choice and Kingston is your second choice. You don't need to be looking at the modules of both. You would just put down the modules for Newcastle in the first instance. So that's all I'm going to talk about today. If you have any questions, you can pop them into the chat now. I'm going to just have a look to see if there's anything in there at the minute. We have a question asking, is this session recorded? It is recorded, and it will be up on the careers events page probably before the end of the week. Also, if you follow the same link that you did as you came on today, you'll be able to see a recording of the event as well. Usually that takes 24 hours to come up. And another student has asked about Are there equivalent courses in the exchange unis for each student who are doing more than one subject, archaeology and history as an example, and would you have to pick one of their subjects? Obviously, it'll depend on what the subjects it is that you're doing. Archaeology and history, just as an example, yeah, I believe there's archaeology and history subjects at both the universities. Again, you'll be looking at the modules that you can potentially do under both those subjects, and it'll depend whether you're interested in going for a semester or a full academic year. And taking a note of the modules that you're interested in doing at the host university, and then bringing these to your advisor of studies, or bring it to somebody in your school who can help you select which modules would be appropriate for you to do. I see a question come in about how do I access the My Future app. You can do that through your Queen's Online, or even just a quick Google search of Queen's My Future. That's the My Future is the portal that careers use for advertising all events and all job vacancies. Everything to do with careers is on My Future. Carlisle's asked, could you please go one slide back about Newcastle? I'm not too sure. There's a few different slides about Newcastle. Like I say, the recording will be available after the session, but you can also drop an email to goglobal@qub.ac.uk if you would like to ask any further questions. If spending the entire year abroad, it was mentioned there's a possibility of a tuition fee waiver, and does that apply to the host university also? You would never pay the host university's tuition fees. Any tuition fees that you have to pay is always to Queen's. So in terms of that tuition fee waiver, if you go out for the full academic year and you normally pay NIGB or EU fees, then there may be a tuition fee waiver in place for your tuition fees at Queen's. You never pay the tuition fees at Kingston or at the University of Newcastle. If you go out for just one semester, you just pay the normal tuition fees to Queen's. I hope that makes sense. I don't actually see any other questions coming in, but I've got another couple of slides that I'm just going to go through. So if anybody else has got any more questions, you can ask them during that time. Just making you aware of a couple more sessions that are coming up from ourselves and the Global Opportunities team. We've got, if anybody's interested in undertaking a summer camp, Camp Counsellors USA are going to be doing a virtual session on the 25th of January. That's next week, from 5 to 6. Summer camps are a great way of experiencing a new country, and sometimes they're underrated, but you get paid for being out there, and you can go to a range of different camps. So if you're interested in spending the summer in the US, definitely come along and to that session. You can book onto that session on My Future, or see the link for My Future. The Global Opportunities Focus on Summer, we'll be doing a summer session on the 23rd of March, just to get everybody kind of focused on what they can do during the summer. Again, you can sign up for that through My Future or access it through My Future. So yeah, definitely if you're interested, come along to that one. And just to reiterate that we've got the virtual drop-in sessions every Tuesday and Thursday from 12 to 1, and they're bookable through My Future, and they're 15-minute appointments. So by all means, if you're interested in want more information on this program or any of the programs that we have, you can definitely come along and chat to myself or one of my colleagues. And in terms of further information, there's our website. The first two are our own websites. That third one is Global Graduates. It's always a good resource for hearing about students who've been out on these type of programs. And then if you have any questions at all, just email goglobal@qub.ac.uk and we'll try and get back to you as soon as we can. I see another question has popped up in the chat. If you're unsuccessful this time, are you able to apply next year as well? Yes, potentially you could apply again next year as long as the course allows for that to happen. Because in some courses, there might be a certain year that is best for you to undertake this type of exchange. And as long as the program is running, we've learned over the last couple of years that we should never say a program will definitely be running. We would hope that it's running. Again, we hope that it's running in 22-23, and we would hope that it's running in 23-24 as well. So yes, you can definitely apply again if you wish, as long as you're still at an undergraduate level. So I think that's all the questions that have come in. Like I say, any other questions, by all means, email goglobal@qub.ac.uk. And thanks for coming along to this session. I hope anybody who applies, you're successful in your application. Yeah, so thank you very much for listening.